Welcome to Angel's Table. Today we are going to discuss a subject that I feel very passionately about, which is bullying. And joining me today are 5 women who know either firsthand what it's like to be bullied or have a child or children who have been bullied. Joining me today are Karen Rist, Erin Hirsch, and Lauren Hirsch, her daughter, Ashley Gray, and Abby Rist. For me, this became a very passionate subject because my own child, and actually when I really reflect on it, I really had 2 children that were bullied, but one of them was a more intense situation than the other, and the other, we sort of took it as children going their own separate ways, so didn't really identify it at the time as a situation that was bullying, and it wasn't really quite as intense as it was for my daughter. And for her, it was a terrible situation to the point where she doesn't really remember a lot of what happened. Don't want to cry. But, so, because it is so important and I see it so much happening, and even when I sent out the casting for this subject, it was amazing to me how many people came forward and said, I'm so glad you're doing this subject. I have had the experience myself, my children have, I would love to share, but I don't think we can. I wouldn't want to do that on camera. I would love to just sit and talk about it because it was, so many people have been affected by bullying or know someone who has been affected by bullying. And Lauren, we're all adults, and everybody else here has either had some situation of bullying and they've moved on, but you're actually right now experiencing bullying. Do you want to talk about that and what you're going through?
In school and in dance, I've always been the odd one out. In dance, I couldn't do exactly everything because I have a back problem and I've had it since I was really little. I tried my best, but I still got picked on no matter what happened. And since that back problem happened, I've had a rolling back in school, and it's difficult, especially when kids my age just pick on every little thing about you that's different. Mm-hmm. Every single tiny little detail.
Right. Well, I think you had said before we started filming that the teachers are trying to figure out who is actually doing the bullying and who, like you have your backpack and you've experienced twice that your backpack was broken, and you can't identify who it is because they're doing it in a group, so you can't really see who it is who's doing it.
It's hard to catch them. They, clearly it's not a first time thing because otherwise they probably would have been caught by now, so it's just heartbreaking to know that someone has done it before and now they're just doing it over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And what's sad about that is that somebody else knows. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are other kids that know that somebody is doing this to you. It's multiple kids. And I think what happens too is that kids form a bond when they're bullying someone. And they find someone who they can attack, and to some extent, from what I've observed, is that when they are bullying, it's almost to elevate themselves to another level, and if they can put somebody below them, then they feel better about themselves. Do you think that's...
Yeah, I believe that really is the case.
You do? Do they say things, or is it mostly something where you can't really see what's going on? Are they mean verbally at all?
Yes, they call me different names, like the most popular one right now is suitcase because the rolling backpack, it looks like a suitcase, but...
She's has doctor's orders to carry the backpacks, the books that they have to carry around are so heavy and things, and she had back surgeries when she was a very young child, and so she has doctor's orders to have a backpack on wheels because the books are so heavy.
Right.
And that's just kind of singles her out as a little bit different. Right. And so that difference is something that they choose to use as a tool to pick on.
Right, and then you also said because you're an actor that they pick on you for that as well.
Kids just don't understand what I do, why I'm always absent, and they just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of things do they say to you for?
Well, they always like complain about how I'm gone, and some of the teachers get angry because I'm gone, so.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't help.
No, it really doesn't, and I know from our experience that the teachers sometimes would also fuel some of the feelings that some of the kids had toward other kids who were being bullied. Like if someone pointed out something about a student, then the teachers would somehow jump on board with that too, and say, well, you're always absent for whatever reason, or so they don't really support when you do something that's different from what everyone else is doing.
They set the tone.
Yeah, they do set the tone. Abby, do you want to talk a little bit about what your situation was?
It's funny because when I was in middle school, I also had a rolling backpack, and I dealt with a lot of the same kind of problems, like people kicking it, or like knocking it out of my hands, or like things like that. And I've had scoliosis since I was young also, so I definitely understand that exact scenario. For me, lunchtime was always a free-for-all, after school, anytime where you're not in direct supervision in the hallway. People take their time to go out of their way to make your life miserable. And you don't know if it's because they are dealing with their own, pain, or they are angry, or they're jealous, or you really don't know what other people are dealing with. But, there were so many days that I spent lunch in the library or in the bathroom, or I didn't want to go to school, or I didn't want to go to class. But, it was constant. From elementary school, middle school was horrible, and then high school, I thought things would be better because by the time I got to 8th grade, things were a little bit better. But then there wasn't anyone older to pick on me at that point. So when I was a freshman in high school, it got so bad. I had people steal things out of my locker, nicknames, rumors, like vicious, nasty names. I had physical attacks, on like so many different levels too, and it was never always the same people, like different people.
Wow.
And cyberbullying became a thing when I was probably about a freshman in high school. That was when, instant messenger became well established, and LiveJournal was a thing. And nobody even knew the term cyberbullying back then. No one talked about it, but it was like the moment you left school, they could still find a way to find you or find out your personal feelings and then use those against you. So I had seniors going online telling me I needed to go kill myself as a 14-year-old. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into because I was 14. I started skipping school, and I skipped classes where I was being abused, whether it was emotionally, physically, or sexually in those classes. I started with substance abuse when I was 14. My mom had to come find me when I blacked out at a friend's house. And it wasn't a healthy way to deal with my problems, but I didn't know what I was dealing with at the time. And I never told anyone. So only at that point did it get so bad that I was essentially forced into talking about it. And I was so mad at her for going to the principal, because then the bullying got worse, and the attacks got worse, and then all of the friends of the person who was essentially molesting me, because he was a senior and I was a freshman, they would like attack me in the hallway, or like take my backpack and like throw it, or like put things on me or call me names. And the favorite nickname everyone enjoyed was A-cup, because I was really skinny and scrawny, and it was abuse. It was abuse, 100% abuse, and I feel like I'm a stronger person because of it now, because I don't take as much crap from people, if you will, but honestly, I don't know how people can still think that it's not a problem, or like don't talk about it at this point. And it's,
Well, the sad part is, and like you said, that your mom went to the principal.
and it
then
just
became
got worse. He was only
And-
suspended for 2 weeks.
When you go to higher authority and they like have announcements about it, people just
They fail you.
they won't stop,
Mhm.
especially in the school environment. It just gets worse if you tell an authority, so you're always like trying to keep it to yourself, fight it off on your own, but it's hard.
It is hard.
Well, and even as parents, we try to tell our kids, you know, because you know that, because you went through it as a kid. So we try to tell our kids, you know, stand up to them. Tell them, no, I don't like this. I don't want this. You want to give your child that chance to, you know, stand up for themselves and fight for themselves first. But when the situation perpetuates and it happens over and over and over again, the one choice you have is to go to an authority figure. So that's a difficult thing too, because you're counseling your child at home, and you know that as a kid. We all went through a little bit of bullying. And so at first, you know, your gut instinct is don't overreact. Okay, let's teach the kid how to cope with the skill on their own.
Right,
And then when that doesn't work, that's when you have to take that next level. So.
right, right. Ashley, will you share a little bit about your experience?
Most of my bullying happened in middle school. That was pretty much the worst. A lot of it I kind of blacked out because I just like chose not to remember. So I don't remember like anything of 7th grade, pretty much my whole middle school career. I remember like little things. My group of friends and I were all kind of the same. You know, we were just doing it ourselves. You know, we were just us. We weren't part of the popular group. So all of us had our little bullying here in different ways. My one friend actually got a little bit worse because she was very different. She would read books going down the hall and wear rainbow socks. That's cool.
that was
like,
right,
how is that something
that-
for
yeah.
her? But she would get ridiculed all the time, so we're there, you know, we helped her get through it. My situation, I got more of just verbal stuff said to me, just more on the fact of, you know, I can't even remember names. They would like try to like have the cool guys come up to me and talk to me and ask me stuff. It got to a point I was just like I didn't fall for it anymore. It was like they were trying to get to me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I'd have issues on the bus because you can't do much on a bus. I remember just getting off the bus crying a lot. I can't remember why. I remember one time I had like these things that you can buy at the school store, and I had gotten a couple of them, and someone on the bus just completely ripped it apart, and there's flour everywhere. I'm like, oh, that was bad. I had another situation in 8th grade. A new teacher just got hired that year, and he didn't really have any disciplinary skills whatsoever. He was pretty young. So a lot of kids got away with things, and I remember one day before class started, I don't remember what I was doing, but I was trying to go out into the hall, and he grabbed me and put his shirt over my head, wouldn't let me go. The teacher didn't, all he did was say, you know, stop, stop. My mom went to the principal, and they said that, you know, she could file sexual harassment charges and all this. She didn't do that because she probably was thinking, oh, it could make it worse.
Right, which I would have.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not sure exactly how much happened, like what did I tell her stuff, that I just don't remember all that. I just remember like certain situations that I just cried like almost every day and I went out. Once I got to high school, because I was at such a big high school, it was like Plymouth, Canton, Salem, it wasn't as bad fortunately because you have your group of friends, so we just stayed by ourselves. Like we didn't have to go in and mix. But there was like between sporting events, like stuff I would want to do, I knew I wasn't going to because it would have been bad. So I just stuck to the sports my friends did, even if I didn't really enjoy it. So in a way, it kind of like I couldn't really join the different clubs and stuff I would have wanted to do.
Right. That sort of, I was reading a statistic that said that for many many kids, if they've been bullied in middle school, that it actually does carry through high school. So many kids are bullied for years. And so it's not like it's, you know, 1 year it happens and it doesn't happen again. That frequently it is something that just continues throughout the whole academia.
And you try to find, like, I think I was trying to find ways to avoid anything that happened.
Right.
Because like even during lunch, we still got some of it. It's just, since you're in a bigger area, you have a little bit more room to avoid some of that. So much as opposed to being in a closer
Right.
area. You know, you have 3 schools. So it makes it a little bit easier to avoid situations, but it does limit you to stuff that maybe you would have wanted to do, but you don't want to like.
Right. Well, you know, and really, in reality, when this stuff happens, so many kids, they don't get the same high school experience that other kids get. You know, I remember at the end of middle school, I would see all these kids and they're all so happy and they're excited and they're talking about this is such a bittersweet experience. And I was completely sobbing because I thought my child did not have that experience. My child didn't want to go to school. My child found every reason not to go to school. So, you know, so it's like there's some kids that get that ideal high school or middle school experience, and then, you know, the rest of the kids, you know, it's not like that. And, you know, I sort of gave up the idea that you want that normal, and I realized that you create your own normal and you create the life after that, and so you sort of have to move past that. But that's, you know, something that, you know, you have to sort of figure out for yourself how to deal with the situation. Now, Karen, you were bullied, and you still feel the results of that now. You still reflect on that.
I was bullied, I believe, in middle school. It started, and I grew up in the Detroit public school system, and at that time, it was in the 70s when busing started. So I was bused from this little neighborhood, you know, kind of an all-Polish neighborhood, to across town, and we were all combined, a bunch of different kids, and all of a sudden we had new races mixing. And we had a new school building. It looked like it had been recently built. And we had, I think, no training, no preparation for, this is your new group of people. These are your new friends, and, you know, nobody taught everybody how to get along. And I think they did not have enough staff. They did not have enough training in how to deal with this.
Right.
So, you know, we were bullied. I had to take a public school bus across town. So I was bullied on the bus. I tell people I was the little white Rosa Parks. I mean, literally, these boys said, you will move to a different seat. And I was like so stubborn. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And then it was like, there's a stick in somebody's hand and you're getting hit on the head with a stick and you're moving.
Yeah.
You know, so then you have to go to school and function. So I like had to stuff it, and you know, no, I never told anybody. I mean, there was just so many things day after day. You know, we got poked. There was a little group of us. We kind of stuck together, and we all had long hair. We had there was a blonde, a redhead. We were kind of odd, you know, pale and little, and you know, and they poked us with pins, and you know, and our behind. It was like in the hallway. They would just get you. And then there was a group of boys that brought dog bones and put them on our chairs. You know, we're like, seriously? You know, I mean, at the time when you're developing relationships and you're so self-conscious about yourself, you know, they're bringing you dog bones. And I was like, what does that mean? You know, nobody even, you know, understood it. And then in another class, you know, I think it was back in the 70s, so you're starting to wear like maybe midriff tops. You know, it was all about hip hugger bell bottoms, and so then it became apparent that you could not wear those things because boys started pursuing the girls, and inappropriate touching and fondling was, you know, one time boy sat behind me, he unbuttoned my blouse, or would reach around and try to grab my breasts, and I was like, you know, like this. And it's like, how does that teacher not see this happening? I'm like, this far from her. And, you know, so as an adult, I always thought, I'm not like really free with my body, you know, and I have issues with people just grabbing me even just to hug me, you
you do because
You know,
of
for my
that
husband, I
experience,
was like, hey,
yeah.
wait, you know, he wanted to be a jokester, maybe playing around or whatever, and I was really pretty protective of my body
Right.
because of that. So for my daughter, when she said, these boys are touching me in class, or, you know, it was basically, I think, sexual abuse. It just enraged me because I really never told anyone. I mean, nobody, they didn't care. Nobody asked. It was like, don't ask, don't tell. My parents ended up getting divorced, and so nobody was really, they were all mixed up and they had their own issues. So
Right.
when that happened to her, I was like, oh no, this is not going to go unreported.
Right.
And I probably should have, you know, she took the backlash, and I didn't know it at the time because she didn't tell me. Because she thought, I'm not telling her another thing because she'll just get me in more trouble. As
And
an adult, she told me.
But it's sad to think that like the abuser is not the one getting in trouble, it's the victim who gets the backlash, who gets the trouble. It's not like other people suddenly like rallied around me and were like,
To support
oh
me.
my gosh, this
Right.
guy like did this, I can't believe that. It was the other way around. It was all of his friends rallied around him in order to continue the abuse on me. So even when I didn't have to see him in school for those 2 weeks, it was all of these other people like taking his place in every hallway, in every corner. It was like, you know, and it's crazy that it is a victim blaming society that we live in.
Well, and that's, I mean, that's just so sad that it's almost like they bond, and it helps, you know, like if one person's doing it, I'm gonna jump on board with
So
you,
do
I
I.
wanna be a part of what you're doing. Partially because people wanna be connected to someone, and if the connection is to bully someone, it's easier to do that, because if you're actually to stand up for the victim, then you become a victim.
Right.
So I mean, really, I don't think kids are mature enough to really understand what it means to help someone who's being
To stand up.
victimized.
Well, that's kind of, it's funny because that's how it started with me. I would say probably about second grade, there was a kid in one of my classes who I kind of became friends with. We bonded over like video games, but he was a little like autistic or maybe Asperger's. And I was the kind of person who was like, I'm friends with you, I don't have a problem with anyone. And I watched people pick on him over his hypersensitivity, and I would stand up for him when I would see it. And then it became, I was just lumped into that category, and it just, you know, even my close friends even exiled me because they associated me with the victim. And then that's when the bullying really took off, you know, like second, third grade. And that's when it just kind of started, and then all the way through maybe my junior year of high school. By my junior year, I was skipping school, and I didn't really care what anyone said to me. I was like, I became kind of like abrasive. I was like, I'm not listening to anything that anyone has to say to me. I put up a wall, built a shell, and had my armor, and was like, I'm not gonna put up with it anymore.
And that's what's really a shame, is that you build a wall. And
You have to.
You put these things up to protect
Yeah.
yourself, and then that alone makes you look like you're not welcoming of other people.
Right.
And then kids don't understand that either, where
No.
they don't realize that it's what happened to you, that's the reason why you do that.
And nobody cares what your reasoning is behind you doing anything, why you dress the way you do, why you act the way you do. In middle school, I wore black because my grandfather passed away. And I remember that as being like the height of being bullied in like 7th grade because I wore black. It was like people freaked out and made this whole point to like just attack me throughout the whole day. And it was just,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but
horrible.
it's just crazy that
One thing like
Yes,
that.
some-
One little thing.
yeah, it wasn't laughing because
I was grieving,
Yeah,
and that's
but-
what I understood is like, how
And I
do you
laugh.
do that,
Yeah, like
Oh, right.
kids pick on such shallow things like what color your clothes are, to what kind of backpack you have,
Yeah.
to how your hair is done, to what clothes you wear.
Yeah, my daughter would come home every day and say, someone told me today that I have really ugly teeth. Someone told me today I have the weirdest ears. Somebody told me today that my clothes are stupid. I mean, like every single day,
Me
she
too.
would come home and tell me something new that someone said to her, and it's like, Who tells you that you have a weird nose? Who tells you that your ears are strange? I mean,
Just
just,
they think they are. Right, I mean, I remember them telling me, yellow teeth, and I was like, what do you think I worry about? Everything.
Yeah.
You're just self-conscious. You're like, oh my God, my nose is too big. My teeth are
Right.
not right. And I remember her as a child wanting to wear all these really cool fashions. We'd buy them. She'd never wear them. I
right.
kept saying, why don't you wear this nice skirt? And now I know why. Because you didn't dare wear what was on the inside, what you felt like. You couldn't express yourself.
Yeah, I remember my daughter was always really into clothes and fashion, and as the bullying progressed, every day she would go to school and it would be dressed down, to where she was, practically going in, just a
The
gray
same,
sweatshirt
yep.
and gray, jeans.
Something
because
neutral.
anything
Yeah.
should not be noticed whatsoever. And I remember as a mom just thinking, how dare you people take my daughter's personality away from her, So to me, that's what became, I was motivated to keep her being her. And I realized that that was a very important thing, was to keep her being her and to also not have anger, because I do really, I was in therapy twice a week because I wanted to make sure that I helped her deal with it. And she wasn't going to therapy because the way she thought of it was if she went to therapy, that was just one more thing that that was painful. It was still one more painful thing being done to her. And, she didn't see it as a way to heal. So to me, the things that I would say to her are keep being you have a right to be you, and don't be angry. And so we would actually pray about the kids that would do some of the things, because I really felt at the core of it all was that they had their own pain that they were dealing with.
Yeah.
That they did not feel good about themselves, because do you really think that the kids that hurt you, if they knew what they were doing to you, that they would really do it?
I really don't.
Yeah, I think that they themselves are sad, or they don't feel good about themselves. Maybe something in their own homes isn't very good, and
Yeah,
yeah,
we
and,
know that.
right. And so to me, and that's something that trying to find something that's for you, that you keep doing you. And I know that you, oh my goodness, what I found out that you do for your outlet is that you write. I mean, you're an actor, but you also write. And let me tell you, I read something she wrote earlier. I was blown away. I could not believe that this 13-year-old girl wrote this beautiful, I want to say it's poetry, it's a novel, but to me it was just incredibly poetic. It's beautiful. So I'm sorry, I'm telling you what you do. I want you to tell me what you do.
I think that's her saving grace. I think it's going to be like one day, there's the book, and you people thought I was going to be nothing. You tried to steal my joy so that I would be nothing.
Yeah.
So I would just stop being me.
I think it's
And you're
great.
going to have that. You're going to have everything that you have in you, and you will show the world who you are.
And I'm so proud of you for coming and sharing your story, because I know it's difficult, to what you're going through is difficult, and then to talk about it.
She's normally very out there and boisterous, and I've seen a very quiet Lauren here today. But how do you?
Well, I think too, when you hear other people's stories, that it makes yours almost, then, well, one, you're not alone, but then it touches you like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Like her, we both deal with kind of the same thing.
You sure did.
It definitely kind of does make me feel better that I'm not alone.
It does get
That I'm
better.
not.
And you see somebody who's grown up and they're okay.
And
I mean,
Abby is one of my favorite people. She is
know.
always so happy and so sweet. And she's one of the kindest people that I've ever met in my life. And what I always think is, she went through a lot of stuff, but she's grown up to be the most amazing adult, and that's what you're going to be, as an amazing adult. So, not that I don't think that, like when I would talk about what our situation was, so many people say, oh, make her stronger. Oh, it's a rite of passage. And I'm like,
But that's what I told Abby, didn't
Yes.
I? I did not know what to say to her as a mom. I said, I don't know why this is happening to you, but I believe God is He has great plans for you. For some reason, you are supposed to be very strong.
Right.
And I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I think, there's a twofold thing that happens because of bullying. She was always an empathetic person and could understand others and cared about others.
Right.
You can put yourself in other people's shoes when bad things happen to them, and you become very strong inside. So that the things that life throws at you, you're winging them away. You're like, I got this. I am a warrior.
The one thing, and I don't see it, I don't see either one of you at all, is for me it was important that my daughter not have anger. And so we really would talk about that a lot and pray about that a lot, because that was, I just thought of all the things I want you to go into the future knowing that you are in control of your life. And so how have each of you found your own space to release all of that and to...
Well, like, when I was going through it, I did have anger, but at the same time, I'm a very emotional person. So my way of releasing things wasn't to get angry, it was to just cry it out and, like, get just depressed. But, like, it has helped me, though, I think the same with you, it helps you become a stronger person. So, it did help me learn, if you do come across stuff, anger isn't going to be the issue, but you just, like you said, be yourself. Just for me, being emotional and being, like, compassionate with other people helps.
Right.
Because if you show that, then hopefully you can bring that to them.
Right.
I don't know, it just made me a very more compassionate person.
Yeah.
That's why I feel very strongly about it and want to help the kids nowadays, especially with all this cyber stuff going around.
Right.
It's like they need all the support they can get, because I know someone right now that her kid is getting bullied in school. And she's asking me, was it always like this at this school? So I'm trying to help her kind of work with that as well, because it gets to a point that there's so much of it now that even the principal, I think they just not necessarily give up, but
They don't know how to...
it's like there's so much of it that they can't do
Yes.
anything unless you just suspend everybody. But
I wonder, they have all these, at the beginning of the school years, they have orientations, and I almost wonder if they could have an orientation on bullying. And I don't even know how really that they could do that, because most people don't believe that it's their child, and a child never could do
That's right.
whatever it is.
In denial.
And so they are in denial, and they don't see the signs of it, and they don't see, the first thing if someone were to say, well, this is happening, well, what'd your child do? Well, if they didn't do anything.
Right.
Like every year, my school does that kind of thing, but it's like this short little thing. And me and my friends, every year I've paid attention, watched it all the way through, and I noticed out of the corners of my eyes people just fooling around, laughing at the video, and just not paying attention.
Right.
They don't want to.
They don't. Well, I actually mean for the parents.
Yeah.
I think the
Either way.
parents and the teachers. At our middle school, I found that there were a lot of teachers that were incredibly disrespectful. I can just tell you so many stories about the teachers, and I always thought these teachers need to go to self-esteem school, because surely if their self-esteem was better, they would understand what these kids are going through, and they would know how to address these situations better. Where, some of the responses to things and the way they would talk to kids, and they would talk to the kids in a bad way, and then the kids around them would talk to the kids in the bad way. You're setting a terrible example. If you're talking to a student like that, why do you think their peers would not talk to them like that? And now imagine if you're already being bullied and then your teacher is bullying you. What you then tell yourself inside is, well, obviously I have no worth, I have no value, because not only are my peers bullying me, but my teacher is. So
you're alone in it.
And
you are.
It normalizes it, and
It
it's
does.
the same thing with if you have a parent at home or a sibling or a relative who also bullies you, and then you're also getting bullied in the world, versus having a strong family group who only supports you. Then it's only external, it's not coming from the inside. And it's the same thing with like, if you already have good self-esteem, it's easier to brush it off because it's coming externally. If someone else tells you something, you're like, no, I already know within myself. But the moment that they start to break you down over time, then it becomes your own self-monologue and it becomes your own thoughts, and you're like, you're suddenly bullying yourself because all of the things that people always told you become your internal monologue for, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, and then you start to believe them, and it becomes this self-fulfilling deprecation, and you can't get away from it years later because you're like, why do I think everyone tells me I'm so beautiful and I'm so talented and all of these people like love me and they can't believe I was ever bullied or that I ever went through anything. And you're suddenly like, well, where is this coming from? Because it is your own thoughts, because it becomes the way you treat yourself and the way you go through the world. And, I think that it's those psychological scars that are the most lasting, that people don't realize how deep they really run until they begin to start trying to build a career and build a life or build a family or have relationships to other people, and you're always expecting the other shoe to drop. You're always expecting someone to turn on you and hurt you because you're used to that. You have frenemies, you have people who are, go out of their way to make you feel small.
Right. One of the things that this triggered this thought is that I would start to pay attention to my self-dialogue and our family dialogue. And because I know the kids have to be learning some of the behaviors at home.
Right.
I really do
That's
believe
right,
you emulate what you see. Now, if you are at home and you come back from a party and you spend the next half an hour talking about, Susie, and oh my gosh, can you believe what she said or what she wore, or,
Yeah,
and
comments.
and so I really started to really try to monitor that stuff, and it was hard. And sometimes I would, even with the kids that would bully my daughter, I would think, oh my God, I hate that kid, or oh my gosh, I'd want to start tearing her apart. And okay, that girl is a very beautiful girl. I'm not going to say anything bad about her because that would be a lie. And why say all these nasty things about her? And so I would really, it was a struggle. I would constantly be struggling because you're in pain and you want to say that. But for me, it was important to not do the same things that they were doing, so that when my daughter went to school, that she wasn't going to do that to other people.
Well, yeah, and I'm a teacher, I'm an elementary school teacher, and modeling is the best way that kids learn. And when Lauren or my son, my other son, one of my other children is bullied too, would come home and tell me the things that were happening to them, I think one of the things is not reacting in shock. And that sounds counterintuitive because you want to say, what happened? Who did what to you? They did what? But when your children come home and are telling you something about being bullied, or when a student approaches me in class about being bullied, one of the things I try to always do is, they're coming to you in confidence, they're coming to you for help. And it doesn't help, as you ladies have pointed out, a lot of times it doesn't help to report to the authorities and to make an issue out of it. I try to catch it as a teacher. And I would honestly encourage any parent who feels that their child is being bullied to go that route. Catch it. Give the teacher an opportunity to catch it. If you have you have to have the right teaching staff and the right people who are there for the right reason.
With the right mindset.
With the right mindset. Now, number one, your children will always talk to you if you're not shocked. I have a good girlfriend who taught me that.
Scare them. Yeah.
If you don't scare them, I have a good girlfriend who taught me that. She has a child in high school, and she said my daughter will still come and talk to me about anything, whether it's sex or drugs or alcohol or other kids or what they're doing, because I'm never shocked. I always just say, well, really, what do you think about that? And so I've tried to take on that as a parent with my daughter. And my son, and as a result, you get a little bit more information from your kid, and sometimes just getting that little bit of information. But honestly, if you have the right adults, set them up to catch the kids, because that's the best way to nail it.
Right, and I hope they do because
And they are working with us to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
We have really
And it-
considered
right.
homeschooling her, and the principals and everybody are like, no, let us catch this. I
Yeah.
said, I don't want you
Well,
going
within
through.
a week, I want you to catch someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if it's happening every day, within 1 week, you should
Yes.
have someone
Right.
and you
Uh-huh.
should be making a difference.
Right.
And you know, the thing is, you talked about the teacher's mentality. I'm also a teacher, and I think that's how I tried to help myself through
Right.
what I'd been through. I became a special ed teacher,
Right.
and I studied psychology, so I tried to understand what was happening from all aspects of human behavior.
Right.
And we've been going through something called conscious discipline in my school district. And one of the things our principal stresses in this training is that you always revert to how you were raised.
Yes.
So teachers may have had horrible experiences themselves, and they are not reprogramming themselves to think differently and to use different strategies. So, that, you know, face it, some people have been
That's
in the business
interesting.
for a long time, so they're not aware of what they're doing. They don't realize that they're part of the gang mentality problem.
Right.
You know, that they're
Well,
condoning
and I
it.
think that is very, I know from our
Because
situation,
no one-
that was very true.
Right.
And that's why I said that thing about having the teachers go to self-esteem
Sure,
class.
sure, some of
To-
them,
but
yes.
How
Teachers
do
learn
you-
how
right.
to address these
Yes.
kids.
And how to
I mean,
support them.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
how do you get on the other
Yeah.
side and
Right.
because they don't want to lose the bullies. You know, they don't want to tune them out
Right.
because they want them all engaged in class. And
Right.
they would be like, what if they stood up for the one who's being bullied?
Right.
It's powerful.
It would
Yes,
be, it would
it's
be
very
incredible, it really would. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today and sharing your stories. And I really hope, and especially with the two of you, if there are parents watching and see that the lasting effects of what happened that you're in your 20s and you still feel that pain, but showing that you would, you know, be an example to young people that you survive it.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
does
just
get
to
better.
keep-
It
it
does,
does get better.
I
Keep
promise.
moving forward and
You don't
keep-
think it does at that age,
Yeah.
but it does.
Yeah.
Right, the
I-
one thing I would always say to my daughter was keep being you. You have a right to
Yes.
be you, keep being you, because what they're trying to do is change you. And if they can change you, then they've won. Well, don't let them win. And pray for them. That to me is huge.
Yes.
Pray for them to feel better about themselves. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you.